PC, right?
Yeah. It actually just came before. But I don't know what happened. I can I can just plug it in again. Something is happening.
Is it when you activate the PowerPoint or?
I mean, now nothing really happens, so I don't know.
I have an adapter from USB to HDMI. I used this one when I presented.
You use this?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try. Let's try again. Okay, yeah.
HDMI.
Yeah.
You want HDMI now?
No. Yes, HDMI. Yes.
Here, HDMI.
Yeah,
Yes.
HDMI, yeah.
HDMI 1 or 2?
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's up to you guys there. Yeah, yeah, we got it. That's good.
works. Great.
Yeah, finally. Cool. All right. Yeah, so I'm here to talk a little bit about the buzz in town these days. So that's no surprise. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about how to securely implement AI and machine learning solutions at enterprise scale with Azure OpenAI Services. Just a little introduction about myself. My name is Alex Heyman. I work as a senior cloud engineer at Leo Pharma currently, where I'm predominantly working on the Azure platform, and then we build a little bit of AI solutions for drug discovery, chatbots, knowledge-based Q&A across the company. So that's a little bit about myself. But yes, this is the agenda that I have right now. So I'll just give a brief introduction about myself. Paulina has already started, but yeah, I'll give more substance to it since she's interested for me to share a little bit of what I'm doing on the side. And then I'll talk a little bit of OpenAI and Azure OpenAI. I think, yeah, so that's the question there. Why not use OpenAI APIs? And then talk a little bit on the Azure AI services that are there. And then the deployment of some of these services, what you can actually use them for, the implementation, a little bit on security of using the AI solutions on Azure, and some of the use cases, and especially what we are using it for at Leo Pharma. And then I'll show a little bit, just demo. I need to show some code, I think, since we are all developers here, I believe. So just to do that. So, yes. So a little bit about myself. As I said, senior cloud engineer during my daytime, and I've had a couple of certifications from Asia in the last couple of years. Started as an Asia administrator, went on to get the security engineer certificate, and then the Asia DevOps engineer certification as well. And in my free time, I like to do some few things, among which I call myself indie hacker. So I'm not really hacking into anybody's computer or network, but just trying to use the little knowledge I have in coding to actually develop mobile apps and also monetize it. So that's what I've been doing, and I have a couple of apps, and some of which might be of interest or exciting to talk about. I have a PDF translator app. So as the name suggests, you get a PDF document, you use it in the app, you translate it, and you get a PDF document back into over 136 different languages. And I actually happen to use an AI solution on Azure to do this. And then I have a parking app as well for Copenhagen. It's called Parking Zone. So if you ever get a parking fine, you need to download this app so you never get a parking fine again. Well, maybe. But that's the hope, at least. So you get the street parking information on where exactly you're supposed to park, what is the rule there, and then you make an informed decision on whether to park there or not. So yeah, and it's got some good reviews so far, and I'm excited for it. Cool. All right, so let's get to business. Yeah, so I want to talk about Azure OpenAI versus the OpenAI, the company itself. They have their own solution, and then we have it on Azure. So one might be asking the question, why use the one from Azure when there is the main one from OpenAI? So I did a little bit of a comparison here of the two services. And for the OpenAI solution on Azure, the downside, straight up, we are going to downsides of using it. But overall, I think it's a good thing to actually use the one on Azure, because we will see now the pros outweigh the cons here. But if we take the OpenAI itself, the features, when they release them, immediately you get them on the API. But on Azure, there's a little bit of lag, because when OpenAI deploys a solution, they have to actually handle that to Microsoft for them to also deploy their own version. And they have to do some, compliance, some testing, and what have you, before they actually make it available for enterprise users. So there's a little bit of lag there between the release cadence from OpenAI and what you get on Azure OpenAI. But not so much, really. I think sometimes maximum 1 week. They're actually trying to close down on that, maybe a day or two these days. So that's not a big problem, really. When it comes to the data residency and compliance, so Microsoft ticks the box for a lot of the enterprise solutions for which you will use these services for. And for OpenAI, they have most of their data residing in the US. So that's a little bit of concern for some of us in the EU, where we want the data to be within the EU. When we talk about the integration of Azure OpenAI, we have the Azure ecosystem, and then you have your AI solutions tightly integrated into each other, where you can just use functions or whatever, all the services together with this Azure OpenAI service. So that's really nice. And of course, then you don't have that on the OpenAI itself if you use their API, because then you have to call the APIs and use the API keys and all that. And talking about API keys, now we come to enterprise-grade security, because if you have API keys, then of course you have to keep these static keys somewhere, try to make it safe, which is a little bit problematic sometimes. So on Azure, you have actually the previous talk mentioned about Azure default credentials. You can actually use the Azure default credentials to access the Azure OpenAI services. So you don't necessarily have to hard code API keys within your workflows. And I will show that a little bit in the demo at the end. We have some other forms of security where you have like RBAC, where you assign roles to individual developers that can actually access the solution. We don't have that on OpenAI, because you have to use the API keys and all that, and what have you not. And then when it comes to availability in the various regions, Azure OpenAI, some of their services are only constrained to some specific regions. So if you have your default deployments of regions, let's say West Europe, for example, then you get an exception where you cannot deploy some of the Azure OpenAI solutions directly to your default location. Then you have to make an exception to deploy to the only one that is available. Mostly these days is Sweden Central. That's where most of the AI solutions are deployed. But when it comes to OpenAI itself, then as I said earlier, mostly based in the US. That's where most of their deployments are based. And when we take Azure AI services in general, and the OpenAI is just one part of the AI services on Azure. There are over 1,000 models from which you can choose from Llama, which is from Facebook, Meta. You can get from any other open source models that are also available there. You can just choose and pick whatever meets your need from. So that's also a very great benefit of using the AI solutions on Azure. But on OpenAI itself, then of course you only have the OpenAI specific models that you can choose from. So when we look at it, we see that Azure OpenAI is winning, at least for the enterprise solutions. But this is my opinion, at least.
Can I ask something?
Yes?
I'm curious, what's the price difference then?
Yeah, it's actually the same price. Yeah, and yeah, but and of course you don't get any discount because it's pretty much direct billing as it is from OpenAI that is implemented. Yes. But I also have to mention that sometimes when OpenAI itself reduces the prices, so there's this lag that comes in between before Microsoft also makes it available, then you still pay the previous price. So within that window, you pay, let's say, a higher price on Azure OpenAI. But then it changes when they have run the new deployments. Yeah. Cool. All right. So a look at some of the AI solutions that we have on Azure. And Azure has actually put together all of these services within one portal that you can go and have a look at. And I will show it in a bit. So we have the Azure OpenAI service itself, of course. And then we have Azure AI speech service, which you can use voice to generate text or translate the voice also into another language on the fly. So that service is also there. We have the Azure AI Vision, which is used for a lot of document processing in some of the industries that we work in, the banks, and the security sector as well. And then we have a new service that is also really recently released. It's called the Azure AI Agent Service. This one helps you to have a couple of agents that are coming together to execute some different workflows. And then you can chain some of these agents to be able to do a lot more of things that you couldn't have done just using one model or one agent, for example. And then we have the Azure Translator service. And this is actually what I mentioned that I use within my app. So really great service there. Has text translation as well as document translation. And the document translation is the part that I use in my app. Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through the slides and then I will jump into the Azure portal to show a little bit of some of the things that I talk about here and then do the demo afterwards. So when it comes to security best practices on using Azure OpenAI, some of the things that we implement in our company, and some of the things also that Microsoft actually recommends to use the role-based access control for governing access for the developers, and again using the same role-based access control for our workload identities. So manage identities, so service principals, if you would, and the WIF is called a workload identity federation. This one is where you have a third-party solution where you need to federate the identity from, let's say, Microsoft Intra ID to be able to get tokens that will be then used to access some of the resources on your Azure platform. So you can also assign roles to those identities as well for accessing the OpenAI service. So you eliminate the use of API keys or other static secrets that we usually like to use in some of our workflows. So all the way from the dev environment, we eliminate all the secrets. And then we use the OAuth, which is generating the credentials for us on the fly and short-lived. So yeah, so as I said, we avoid static keys in our workflows. So some of the enterprise use cases, or at least for some of the things that I'm working on currently in my job, we have the internal chatbot, like ChatGPT version, developed by my team. And why did we do that? So because I work in the pharmaceutical industry where proprietary data is very important. So you want to keep that in-house and keep it on the lockdown. And Microsoft promise they keep your API calls anonymous, or at least they don't store your data anywhere. So we are taking that in, and then we have developed our own chatbot so the internal employees can use that for their day-to-day activities. Yeah.
Did you check how does it influence team collaboration, silo of knowledge between teams and stuff like this? Or it's more use cases for more like legal stuff?
Yeah, so if you say collaboration, we have a concept called workspaces within our chatbot where you can actually work with multiple people. So that way we have some form of collaboration where you can have a thread of conversations, people coming in to read what the outputs are, and also prompting the models themselves. So we have a thread of conversation going on in this workspace. So I guess that would be something that you talk about. But
Yeah, also if you train it on internal code and so on, or on internal documentation, then certain stuff you can use chatbot instead of reading documentation or asking code every day.
yeah. So we try to promote that a lot. So like various departments are very much on deck to use it, and so yes. Yeah, and then we have this whole Q&A, so you can bring your own documents. You can connect it to a knowledge base somewhere, and how this works is that we have integrated with the AI search service, which is another offering on Azure, that you can bring your knowledge base and then you can chunk the document into like smaller pieces that can be indexed. And then when you query, or you would like to have some conversation where maybe the context window is too large, then you will use the search service as index to get some of the information there, and then use that to prompt the models to get what you need. And we are also starting to use the agent services for some automated workflows. And then we also have a solution in the building right now where we are trying to bring in multiple agents together to help our sales reps to be able to communicate and go through the entire training process of how they actually will sell some of the product to healthcare professionals. So this training service is a multi-base agent that will have a simulation of, let's say, somebody that knows all the knowledge about all the documentation about the products. And then the sales rep will be within the conversation. So it's like a group chat sort of a thing where you have a conversation going on between the sales rep and then the healthcare professional. And then if the sales rep says something that is not factual, then it gets fact-checked by one of the agents within the chat thread. And then the agent will say, okay, by the way, this what you said here is wrong. This is the correct reference to what you need to say. And then the sales rep will be able to then use that as part of their training, so they know exactly how they should be prepared to approach the market. So these are some of the use cases where we have today. I think I skipped one. We also have a plugin where we connect to this service called clinicaltrial.gov, which has a database of all like clinical trials that are being run in the US on different drugs. And then you can query this database using this plugin. So in your chart, you will activate that I want to use this plugin, and then you can use that to get information, live data, pretty much. Cool. All right, so that is a little bit about all of that PowerPoint. So let's dig in to see how this actually works. Okay, so we have a development environment here where you can actually go into the, let's see if I open this. So it used to be called Azure AI Studio, but they recently changed the name to AI Foundry. And this AI Foundry actually consists of a bunch of models that you can actually choose from. So let's have a look. So we have almost 2,000 AI models on this Azure AI Foundry, where you can choose whichever model you would like to deploy. So yeah, it's crazy. It's a lot of them out there. And of course, it comprises of the proprietary models and some open source models as well, as you can see. So yeah. So if you are looking for some solution, you can have a look here. But what I actually wanted to show more of is the Azure OpenAI service itself. Yeah. So we have deployed a couple of models. As you can see here, these are our deployments, and we have deployed these using Terraform. So definition infrastructure as code, and we handle almost every aspect of the deployments using Terraform and on HashiCorp cloud platform actually. So we store our states and stuff all over there. So I don't know how many of you have already played with the OpenAI service. So maybe if all of you have, then I don't have to repeat myself. But okay, not so many. So that's fair. So right now we want to just play around a little bit. So this is actually a nice portal where every developer can just come in, or people that are not also super developers, they can come in here and play a little bit around and see what they can do with the AI models. So we can just select one. Yeah, I can just take like a regular ChatGPT 4 model. It has already been deployed, so now I just select it and then I give it some prompts. We have some examples here. We can just take one in and then hit send, and then we have a little bit of a chat interface where we can do something similar to what ChatGPT does, right? And then you have a section where you can actually add a data source. So if you have your data residing in a storage account somewhere, or as I mentioned earlier, we have the search service as well. You can select that, or the blob storage, and we have a couple of them here. You can select those sources, and then these will then be used as part of your knowledge source for the conversation that you will have with the AI model here. And when you are done with that, you can have a look at the code and just copy this to get you quickly started. if you want to actually productionize what you just played with. So this part is the one that actually uses the Azure default credentials. So we have the Microsoft Entra ID authentication here, and you can see over here that we have the Azure default credentials. So this is where we will test our Azure debugger solution to see which credential it's actually using. And I actually wanted to spend a little bit more time on this part. So for us to be able to use the Azure default credentials for the OpenAI services, we need to first grant some level of access. So the RBAC now comes in. What role does the user need to have to be able to run this particular script? Because now there's no API key mentioned in there. So how the hell do we get this started? So how this works is that for your deployment, we have the Azure OpenAI service. We have created one, and then we have deployed a couple of models behind it. If you are familiar with Azure, you will go to the access control section, and you will grant yourself a role. Over here, we can use OpenAI. So this is the role that we need. This cognitive services OpenAI contributor gives us the rights, privileges to be able to run some API operations, generate text, run some fine-tuning and stuff. So this is one of the roles that we can actually use to be able to run that script that we just saw there. And I will assign it to myself. I think I have already assigned it to myself, but I just take you through the process if you're not familiar with how this works. If you are a user, then you will select this one, or a group or a service principal. Or if you have your workload running on some Azure service that actually uses a managed identity, then you will select this one. Select that particular managed identity. Let's see if we have some managed identity in this system. I created one a couple of times. Yeah, then we just select that. And then we will grant this role to that managed identity. But in this case, I'm running it on the user myself. So I select myself. I have already granted it access, but let's see what happens. Oh, okay. Yeah, now I selected two identities, myself and then the managed identity. So it has assigned, it will assign it to both, but I only need it for myself anyways. But this is the process how you would assign the role to your identity, either yourself or any other user or a group that you can actually bring in your developers into. And also your managed identity can then be added to that group, so you don't have to manage this role assignment on multiple levels. So that's one way to go about it. So now that I've assigned myself this privilege, I can then go ahead and run the script that I just took from there. So we have the definition, we have our endpoint, which is then the endpoint of, so actually I will just show where this is coming from. So if you have your OpenAI service deployments, you can come here and see endpoints. You click on it, you'll be able to actually see the value of your endpoint that you use. And then if you were actually using API keys, then you would copy one of these. But we want to discourage the use of API keys, so we want to use the built-in roles that we assign to ourselves, or any other identity that we would like to use. And then when we have done that, then we come back to the code. So everything is looking nice. We have specified we are using our GPT-4 model, and we would like to get the access token that we will use to run this particular operation. And we use the default credentials, of course. And then how this works, we have already seen that it goes through the list of credentials that are set up for your environments and then pick the topmost one, which is set, and then uses that to get the access token from intro ID, and then uses that to run your request. So we have provided the token to our OpenAI client here, and we have set up our chat completion. We put in some information or some content, what we actually want to ask the AI model to do for us. And then we print that out here. So I will just run that. So we are saying that you are an AI assistant that helps people find information. That is just what we put in there. And then we get an output saying, sure, I'm here to help you. What information are you looking for? So this is just a very basic example of the implementation, but pretty much what I wanted to emphasize on is this Azure default credential, where you don't have to use API keys anymore. Just call this within your code, have the right assignments assigned to whichever identity is running this script, whether it's a developer sitting somewhere on their own computer. They need to log into Azure, select the right subscription to which this model belongs to, and then when they run, the service will then use this default credential to pick to get the token for the service. And then there is this scope that is here, which is very important. So because we need to give at least one scope to the token provider here, that we want to get this token for this particular service. So over here we have all the Azure AI services are under the umbrella of cognitive services. So we specify this over here, cognitive services, we want to get some token for that particular scope. And you can add more scopes if you had other chains of scripts that needs to run within the same file. And then you get all the tokens for those. And then when you run, it will be authenticated against those scopes. So yeah, this is how you go about it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. For security, assign RBAC, eliminate the keys, API keys, static keys from the workflows. You can also use the same approach if you were running some workflow from a different cloud provider towards Azure to run this particular script. You will use the workload identity federation, which actually has an app registration within Azure, and then you will assign the OpenAI contributor role to that app registration, and then it has access to actually run your workflow from when you run it from, let's say, AWS or Google Cloud or wherever. So yeah. I think now we can take some questions if there's any. Yes.
So if you wanted to turn that chatbot into like an employee helper, could you then upload your employee handbook as documents as you showed before?
Yeah.
And then it would be aware of the text you have in your employee handbook, and you could basically ask and get answers from.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just need to come here, and the nice thing is you can actually keep it in the whole Azure ecosystem. So you can upload this handbook or whatever to a blob storage, which is like the basic file storage system you have on Azure, right? Keep it there, and then you're good to go.
How does then relate to this Azure AI search?
Yes. So there's this part where you have some large document that you already would like to have them indexed for you. And actually, if you did select one of these, what it's doing in the background is actually also running some of these documents breaking them down in chunks and then indexing them and putting them in a search service. But this is behind the scenes, you don't see that. But if you want to use your own search service and then you want to control what is happening there when you push data to it and stuff like that, then you select the search service itself and then you manage the orchestration around that. Yes.
Running the OpenAI on Azure, does that incur hourly costs?
No.
Or just cost when using
The API calls, yes, when you, yes, exactly.
I have the Azure account and I get these 1,000 kroner every month, but I also pay for OpenAI, so I could potentially just move my questions here and stop paying for
Yes,
OpenAI.
exactly, yes.
Right.
Yeah, and you have pretty much all the features here. You can do the assistant that does the code interpreter, function calling, and what have you not here. So pretty much
I discussed it.
you can generate images as well. You know.
I talked with a colleague earlier today about exactly this.
Yeah.
So I could potentially just expose it to my 3 colleagues in my team.
Yes.
That uses it, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's then it's for now.